Alexa Stabler-Adams, University of Alabama graduate. Good morning, Alexa.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So thrilled to have you. Folks might not know, but back in the day when you were in college, you were actually a WVUA, well, I think it was WVUA 7 then, but WVUA 23 intern, news intern. So you did
That is correct. Yeah.
I remember you one night going out to cover an accident, and it was pouring down rain, and you were hauling that gear and had your rain boots on, and that's probably why you decided that maybe this news broadcasting wasn't for you.
Maybe that played a part in it, yeah.
All right, I mentioned that the excitement that I know the family has, and so wanting this to happen. I know we all would have preferred that it have happened while Kenny was still with us, but what about the family and the feelings going to Canton, Ohio this weekend to see your late father inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
We are beaming with pride. The excitement here is really palpable. Just even traveling through the airport here to Ohio, you see people in Raiders gear, and you know that they are traveling here to support our dad, which is just so crazy and humbling because he can't be here with us. And for people to take time out of their schedules and their lives to join us here is so meaningful.
You know, I'm curious, Alexa, because when Kenny was alive, he didn't footballer to broadcaster, and of course was on the Crimson Tide Sports Network for all those years. He didn't talk a lot about the NFL unless somebody asked him about it, and even then, he seemed a little embarrassed by all the attention. But I always felt like he had Hall of Fame numbers. I think a lot of people felt that way. He led the Raiders to their first Super Bowl championship following the 1976 season. That was a dominant team. Did he ever talk about it with family members, and is that something that he really wanted, or did he approach it more like, hey, there's nothing I can do about it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't?
I can genuinely say he never once brought up the topic with me. I can't speak for my sisters, but I feel pretty confident they would say the same. I think my dad's body of work speaks for itself. He had nothing left to prove, right? And he succeeded truly at every level. And this is a huge honor. It is such an elite group of people, and we take it very seriously and want to represent him well. But this was not something that he was, going to hang his hat on.
I got to know him fairly well, not by no means really, really tight with him, but he was always very gracious with me. And through the Tommy Wilcox Outdoor Show, more than anything else, is how I got to know Kenny Stabler and got to be around him in a relaxed setting. And I know you've heard these stories before and you saw it firsthand, but the way he dealt with people, I think that the folks that didn't know him probably initially were a little intimidated because they remembered him. Certainly the older people remembered him as being the quarterback of the Raiders and the Snake and the Playboy profile that was attached to him during the 70s. And then I think when they met him, they instantly felt comfortable, and he always had a way of making it about the other person and not about him. Even when people wanted to talk about him, he always seemed to want to know about them and took a genuine interest in people. I think that's a gift. I don't see that with all celebrities, but he had it, didn't he, Alexa?
Absolutely. I think that's perfectly worded, a genuine gift. As charismatic as he was and magnetic, he absolutely would make whoever he was speaking to feel like the most important person in the room, like they were the only person in the room. He would remember names of people he met, sometimes decades prior, or would, ask about their kids or what's going on at work. I mean, when I say truly the nicest man in the world, I genuinely mean that. And I think a lot of people agree with me. I think it all comes back to Alabama. That's why, he had opportunities to do broadcasting for the NFL and other opportunities outside of football, but he wanted to come back to Alabama because that's home and you learn that Southern hospitality. And I think that was really well received nationwide and made him part of who he is. But yeah, to circle back, a true gift. I miss him every day, and that's one of the reasons why.
To give you an example of how I saw firsthand what type of individual he is, and you don't know this story. I'm about to tell it to you. I have told it on the radio before. I'm sure Kim Bush will remember it if she's reminded of it. But I was with Tommy Wilcox at one of the XOXO Foundation events down in Orange Beach, and this would have been, I want to say, 11 or 12 years ago, Alexa. But he had the fishing tournament and the golf tournament and all that. A lot of former NFL and Alabama players were involved, and they were having a golf tournament at the little par 3 course there. And I happened to be standing there with near Kenny and Kim Bush, his longtime partner, and Shad Williams, who had played running back at Alabama, was one of the celebrities and had gotten left back at the hotel somehow and just didn't make it. And they were looking around, and I remember Kim telling Kenny, we've got to have somebody go get Shad. He got left. And Kenny was like, well, I'll go get him. And she said, no, you're the host. You've got to stay. He said, no. Everybody else is busy. I'll go get him. It won't take me 15 minutes. So here is the celebrity host of the event going to pick up someone himself because he felt like, hey, I'm not busy, I'll do it, rather than letting somebody else go do it. I just thought that was amazing. Most people would have just said, yeah, have somebody go get him. But he was like, no, I'll go get him.
That is the first time I've heard that story, but it's unsurprising to me. His generosity with his time and otherwise. And I think he recognized someone like Shad was helping him with the tournament and raise money for worthy causes. And right, so if you're not busy, go do it. He never expressed an air of superiority or arrogance. I mean, just genuinely the best guy. I mean, really, I think that story is one of many that exemplify just what a cool guy he was.
Let's talk about Saturday, and I know you've got some butterflies, as do your sisters, as does the entire family, I'm sure. John Madden can't be there in person, but he is going to induct Kenny in through a video, and I think I read that Fred Biletnikoff, his longtime teammate with the Raiders, is going to be the one that unveils the bust. I mean, when you're looking at John Madden doing the induction and Fred Biletnikoff unveiling the bust, I mean, that is going to be, that's going to be something else.
I think you're right. Dad would have given the best speech. He had such a way with words and was such a charismatic and articulate guy, but Dad can't be there, and I think we genuinely can't think of a better pair, a better duo to bring Dad into this super cool fraternity, essentially. Of course, we wish Coach Madden could be here in person, completely understand, and are so appreciative of his willingness to play this role for us. So, yeah, we are super pumped. We're excited, counting down the days, and Saturday's going to be great.
We're visiting with Alexa Stabler-Adams, daughter of the late Kenny Stabler. Of course, the Snake will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday in Canton, Ohio. All right, I want to ask you what it's like being Kenny Stabler's daughter. You've got your sister, Marissa, and your half-sister, Kendra. Of course, Kenny has 2 grandsons, Kendra's sons, who were outstanding high school football players there in Arizona. But, everybody wanted some time from Kenny. Everybody wanted to be around him. We've talked about his charisma, his personality, how people were drawn to him. But you were his daughter. What was he like as a father?
My dad was a great football player and great broadcaster and did a lot of great stuff in his life, but he was truly born to be a father. Ken Stabler's father far outshines Ken Stabler, the football player. Yes, people always wanted a time and a piece of him, but no matter what, and he always tried to give people what they wanted, because without those type of people, he would not have had much. But regardless, he was Mr. Mom to the fullest extent. Dance recitals, take me to the grocery store. He would cart me and my friends around in his truck to the fair or whatever, like the most mundane things. Truly, but always did it with a smile on his face, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
We've touched on his humbleness, and I think he's passed that along to you as well. You're a very humble person, but at the same time, when you're growing up and it's Parents' Day, how cool was that when, I know everyone's proud of their parents, or should be, but how cool was it for you when it was Parents' Day and your dad's Kenny Stabler?
I I don't think I really got it because I told someone this story the other day. When you're admitted to the University of Alabama, they have this orientation, and the students say something like that, and you're supposed to bring a parent or guardian, whoever, along with you. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, of course, that's going. I didn't give it a second thought. We walk into this, whatever, the room full of people. And I genuinely did not think about it. And we walked in, and there's just a shift in the air, right? I don't think people were expecting to hear some administrator or professor lecture them on how to be successful in college. And it's just everyone's head turned. And he sat there through the whole day of these boring lectures, and this is what you need to buy, and these are the dorm procedures. And he just sat there and took it all in, and it probably could not have been more boring, but he never complained once. And, again, I'm just really grateful to have those memories.
Yeah, he was just dad to you. And, of course, you were born pretty much after all the pro football stuff, too, so you knew him post Kenny Stabler, the Snake, and as you said, it just dad for you. This past fall, after he passed last summer, the family went out to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum for a Ken Stabler tribute, and I know that was special for the family. But it was special for Raiders fans, and I think it was special for the Raiders because Kenny is one of the all-time great Raiders, but when he left there, he and the late Al Davis were not on the same page anymore. And, of course, Kenny went with Bum Phillips to Houston and then to New Orleans. And I'm not going to say that there was an estrangement there, but there was some distance between Kenny and the Raiders for many of those years. I know later in his life that changed, and what was that like for the family to go back to Oakland for a Raiders game and see your father honored there in Oakland by all those great Raiders fans and the Raiders organization?
We were touched that they wanted to pay tribute to Dad. I had never even been out there prior to this tribute, so it was amazing. We expected a tribute, and this is nice and very thoughtful and touching and a good memory to hold on to. What they did was above and beyond. Mark Davis has a world-class organization that has helped us so much, not only with that, but here in Canton. There's a lot of planning that goes into this, and it's a lot of work, and they have, they're like our family. They're an amazing organization led by a great leader, and it's super cool, right, because I feel like I kind of have these two families. I have my Alabama family. I'm from Alabama, born and raised, still live in Alabama. And then I have my Raiders family, and the fan bases could not be more different, truly. But it's great to feel like I have people I can lean on both sides of the country.
I know Saturday's going to be a day of celebration. You have already told me the family's thrilled. But I wonder, Alexa, and I'm going to ask you, is there some disappointment that this didn't happen while Kenny was alive? Disappointment for the family? I know he's going to be looking down and he's going to be a part of it, and you're going to feel his presence, but is there some disappointment that this did not occur while he was still alive?
I'm trying to be super positive, but I would be lying if I said this wouldn't be way cooler if he was here. To hear Dad give that speech would have been truly a highlight probably of my life, right? Sure, but sure. Sorry. But, he's watching over us. I think we're super happy that we're here representing him and trying to do our best to represent the family well. But, yeah, of course, absolutely. This would have been the best party ever, the most fun weekend, the ultimate party. But it still will be to some extent. But, yes, there is a lot of disappointment. And that's no one's fault. It's just things played out how they did, and I'm just super proud of him.
Wrapping up our last couple of minutes with Alexa Stabler Adams, daughter of the late, great Kenny Stabler, who is being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday in Canton, Ohio. I want to ask you about Kenny after he got sick, because, again, being the private person that he was, the image of him, and he had that image, as we talked about, of being the Snake and being robust, but he was a family man, certainly in his later years, very low-key in a lot of ways, and a lot of people, me included, did not even know he was sick until, I guess, maybe I had heard a few days before he actually passed that he was battling cancer, but it wasn't a public thing, and he passed quietly with just his family. I want to ask you, though, without trying to be too personal, what was that like, having that time with him, even though you knew he was sick, being able to spend that quality time with him in his final months as a family? And I know we want to bond with our families, but when you know someone that close to you, your father, is going to be leaving this earth, how special was that to get that time, in the last couple of months of his life?
You're taken to beat everything, to beat every opponent. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case here. I'm sorry that I get upset.
No, I understand, Alexa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now. And I'm sorry to ask that question, but I just wanted to get a sense for how special the last couple of months with him were for you and for the family.
Yeah, I mean, I will treasure that time that I was with him. I only lived about an hour away from him, so I got to spend Father's Day with him and other times with him, and just miss him a lot.
Yeah. And finally, we haven't talked a lot about Alabama, but I know the Raiders fans love him, and the Oilers and Saints fans too. But for the Alabama folks, he's always going to be number 12, running the mud, a Crimson Tider, and Coach Bryant and all those tie-ins. And that was the one constant throughout his life. I mean, there were the Raiders, and there were the television broadcasting days and the days with the Oilers and the Saints, but he was always an Alabama quarterback. And I know Alabama people are beaming with pride, and that was the one constant. No matter where he lived and where he was at professionally, he always came back home down to the Alabama coast, didn't he, Alexa?
Absolutely. I mean, he played in Oakland, one of the coolest cities in the country, and